Okay, so I've got my pieces back down. I don't really need my original maps right now, but oh, and now I want them flipped. Modify piece flip. I'm going to flip them around the grain line or the center back, but that one didn't have a straight line. Okay, my two back pieces, my two front pieces, and that's how they relate to each other because that's how they sew to each other. No lining up the center front and back together because it never happens. You don't sew the center front to the center back unless you're just a half a person. So I don't need those lines there. I could delete them. I want this grain line moved to a different place. I left them there so that if you for some reason didn't want it as fitted through here, then you can come out as far as this straight line on both pieces instead if you want to. But usually if you add that much, you're going to also be adding additional fullness everywhere else too. But some people will by accident choose this line and then they wonder why they don't fit right. So make sure you're choosing the dart lines and not the straight center line. So I'm going to delete them. And if you didn't keep them at all, that's fine too. Maybe I shouldn't have. Okay, and this line, I can move the grain line. I just can't change it. Modify line, move. So I want it closer to the side seam, or the center back and front rather. And that is looking really good, but I want to do some cleanup to it. I might wait to do that because look at how convenient those points are. They're exactly where the pieces would come together. And now we're going to talk about the angle of the fullness. And it's going to be easier if I keep those lines temporarily before I clean them up. But there was one spot here that I was not liking between here and there. Do you see how that bumps out a little bit? That's going to look kind of silly. Create 2-point curve. If I come in about here and make a straight line right there, I probably would just keep that line straight. So I'm going to cancel that and do a regular straight line. And that was an intermediate point, so I need to split it right there. Modify line, split. And your lines aren't going to be identical to mine. So you may not have to do the same things that I'm doing. You might have similar problems elsewhere. So if you have a curve that's not very neat somewhere, you can fix the curve now, and you can just push pause while you fix the curve. Typically you can do it with a straight line if it's in an area like this, or in the bust area, just use a smooth 2-point curve and fix it until you have one that you would like to swap it with. So I'm going to go into modify swap, my new dotted line for my 2, and I'm doing this clockwise again. If you run into problems, it's usually because you're not going clockwise and in order. and you just start to get confidence, and then you go and do that. So I'm just reminding you, clockwise and in order is your friend. Okay, so I've got my dress. It's going to fit the same. The sleeve is going to fit the same. My shoulders are going to come together. I'm okay with 0.06 difference right here. If I'm not okay with it, I can bump that line in that far or this line out that far. But that's not what we're doing today. So these pieces will fit perfectly together as a princess line dress with no flare. This is just straight. You're not going to want to sit down at the party very much. But I want to add flare to it, and it's important to add equal flare. And there are a number of ways to think about equal flare. You've already learned the one that I was playing with on the skirts. So I'm going to approach it from a different perspective on the dress. So I could choose to add 2 inches of flare on each piece because I want them all to be the same so that it hangs nice and the seams hang straight when it's holding still. And I'll show you even a whole different way of doing it for just a skirt by itself. But this is for a dress that's connected top to bottom so that it keeps a nice fit. So if I decided I wanted to add 2 inches, create 2-point line, I could come out here and then distant from point. I don't think that's actually what I want, but yeah. So I'm going to right click over here. No, I'm not. Cancel. Create a 2-point line. I'm going to start on the corner. Oh, well, I didn't tell it I wanted to do a 2-point line. Sorry about that. So I'm going to right click and say vertical on all of them. I'm going to have them going both directions and have vertical lines. And I'm not measuring them. I'm going to go back and do that in a minute. But I'm pulling the line out on both sides of the piece because I want to add the same amount to each one of them. And I can't add it to the piece, to the seam. If you've got a piece that's going to be on the fold, you can't add it to the fold. So if my back's going to be on the fold, I can't add one. But if I wanted all of my pieces to be separate and I wanted a seam down the center front, then I would add a line to the center front too. In this case, I think what I'm going to do I want a seam down my center front? Well, I'll do one with and one without. So my back is going to be on the fold. No, my front's going to be on the fold and my back is not. So then you'll see both, and you can do the opposite of what I did if you want to. Okay, so all of my pieces have a line going on both sides. Oh, except that one. You want it on the side seam, just not on the center front or back, or you can put it on both. It's up to you. whatever's going to be on the fold can't have extra fullness. So I'm going to create a notch, and I'm going to do distance from point. And so I'm going to start at the end and measure out 2 inches. And I'm going to do that on all of them. And it's not giving me too bad of a time about plus or minus because it can only go one way. And this one, no. That one didn't get its notch. Oh, I put it on that line. So I have to move this piece away because I can't grab it because it's too close to the other pieces. So all of them have notches except that. Create notch, right click, distance from point, touch the line, type in 2. Okay, so in order to have the same amount on all of my pieces and have it be nice and, well, it would look nice if it was stacked up like that while I did it, but it isn't very functional, is it? So I'm going to create 2-point lines. Select, In order to have it exact, I have to be measuring from the same point on all of them. So I'm going to start by creating an offset line from the hem. And this is my side back. And if I put the line there and draw a straight line from it, that's negative 15.346. So if I offset this line, then I need to say negative 13.346. And let's see what that looks like on this one. Okay, you can probably all see what I did, but I can't. I selected the line to offset. Oh, I didn't end selection to continue. Negative 13.346. Okay. I don't know if I like that. So I'm not going to use, I'm going to leave that one. I don't need that one. I'm going to delete it, but I'm going to give myself one on the back. Negative 13.346. But on the front, I'm going to need to have 2 different lines. One of them is going to need to start here. So I'm going to choose this line to offset and switch to cursor and stop right there on that square. And that, well, I didn't look, but I have a reference point right here. So I'm going to do this one and say okay and pull that up to that diamond. Why did I do that? Well, because I have to keep all the lines the same, and I don't need this one, so I'll delete it so you're not confused. Sometimes I think it's better to listen to the whole video double speed and then come back so you don't have to follow all of my dead ends. Okay, so do you see how in the front I've got these two lining up, and then the side well, that's weird. Did I delete the wrong one? What happened to my 13.246 here? Create line offset negative. Was it 246? That will do. Okay. So this line is in the wrong place. Yeah, if you watch me make mistakes, it's like watching a horror movie and telling the people not to go hide in the garage behind the chainsaws, isn't it? Modify delete line. Okay, so everybody has a line pair to line up with, but the front side has to have two in order for it to hang right in front. So now I'm going to create a 2-point line. Create line. And I'm going to start from here and end, switch to cursor, and end at the notch. Now keep in mind this is one way. I'm going to show you another way. And sometimes I like one way and sometimes I like the other. I would like that better higher. Okay, so it was actually this line that was in the wrong place and that one that was in the right place. I want to end up with my line there. But I want them all the same. Now that you've seen it, you can probably figure it out and do a better job. So this one, I'm going to use this side of that one. And then I want that line to start here in the same place, come down to that notch. It's probably better if you don't do what I did, but I feel sorry for you having to watch me do things. Sometimes you'll be in a position where you want to add an exact amount to each piece, like the 2 inches like I just did. And that's going to depend on where you're working and what kind of skirt sweep or flare that you want to have. And other times you're going to be able to wing it and do what you want to do. So what I've got there, minus this one when I delete those 2 lines, okay, so these were my guidelines, and I can get rid of the guidelines. So I now have a flare on the skirt that's consistent all the way around, and it's going to hang evenly and swing evenly and look nice. And I've added 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 28 inches to the bottom of my skirt evenly by doing that. And I've started with it balanced and ended with it balanced. And if I wanted to, I could trace that off right there. And I think that's the way I'm going to handle this. Create piece trace. And I think maybe if you watch the next part, you can decide which way you want to do it. You don't have to do both. So that one, Princess Center Front A. See how they overlap each other? But they're separate pieces. And I'm just going to call these all A. Because I chose this line and then I touched this line up here, it's going to give me what I want. If I had touched this line down here, it would get very confused. So be conscious of what part of the line you're touching when you touch it. That one overlaps. And from the level that I chose it, it's an even amount. I've got a weird notch and some things I need to clean up, but okay, so that one I could go either way with. I think it looks a little weird, but if you want a little extra flare in the back, go ahead. I probably would start it from the waist though. I was trying to be consistent for you, but really that center back one you're going to do more like that instead. Or you're going to trace it off without this extra part right here where the cursor is and just have the center back straight. Okay, so that's the A version. I'm going to line it up because now you are going to need to clean up the hem unless you want a handkerchief hem that's pointy all the way around the bottom. Like jack-o'-lantern teeth, we need to clean that up. So I would do modify, set, rotate, and start with the bottom corner of the skirt, and I can get away with doing that because of the way I had it balanced to begin with. If I didn't have it perfectly balanced with evenly length seams, then this could come back to bite me. Technically, you really need to be measuring from the waist down. Okay, so you can see around there where you've got these pointy, that's something that you would need to fix. Create 2-point curve. How far can I go with that? So I just bring it down and then connect to that and make another nice 2-point curve, and then when you just copy that line to each piece and swap it so that you've got that continuous line going all the way across each piece, and you'll cut off the corner, maybe add a little bit underneath so you have a nice smooth hem. Okay, so that's part A. Once you got that fixed, you would want to make sure that you had matching notches between the two pieces. So I'd put a couple of single notches on the front, a single notch at a different level on the side, and a double notch somewhere in the skirt on the back, and another notch up at the top. But that's A version. If I save them crooked like that, are they going to stay crooked? Okay, so I've saved all of my A's, and I can piece to menu them temporarily. And wow, don't do that. Well, how come it went up there crooked, but it's coming down straight? Oh, it fixed itself. Okay. Cancel. All right, so that was A version. This is B version. I'm going to start by deleting all of the lines because I'm going to do them differently this time. I'm going to leave the straight ones there as a guideline, but I don't plan to use them. Okay, so logically, evenly, 28 inches at the bottom of a skirt is a good amount. 2 inches on each side. But this time I'm going to look at it a little differently. Which angle is my sharpest? And it looks to me like my front dart is the sharpest angle. This is more gradual. So I am going to use this line and I'm going to start here and I'm going to pull out a straight line down here, and then you're looking right here. When I'm making this choice, I'm looking right there. And when that comes out straight, and I'm not cutting off anything, so I know it's going to continue to fit, I'm going to set it down. And it's connected to this piece. So I'm going to copy that same line onto every piece. So create line, copy this line, say OK, put it on this piece, say OK. And I'm going to come up into that same area so that it's touching and set it down. So as long as it's bigger, it's still going to fit. I can't use something that's smaller. I'm going to copy that one, say OK, put it on that piece, sure. And I've got them joining at roughly the waist area. And if I need to go move it a little bit, I can later. Oh. It's going on this one this time. Did I start it? No, I put it up here. Okay, so I've got all of the ones going up toward the ceiling. Now I need the ones that are going to the floor. So I've got all of those. Well, I'm going to get my reverse line by mirroring it. So create line, mirror. I want to mirror this line. Say OK. And I can mirror it around any straight line, but the grain line is going to be the easiest. Well, that obviously isn't lining up where I need it to. So I'm going to go to Modify Line, Move. And I'm just going to pick it up. And if I zoom in really tight, I can see I'm going to cross it over just a tiny bit at the top. And usually if you're really close, it will just put it where you actually wanted it to be. Okay, so now I'm going to copy that line, create line, copy that one, and put it on this piece. And set it down, and I'll zoom in and get closer with them later. Same line. Next piece. Oh, I'm not going to put it on my center front. Well, I'd rather have my skirt even and have a seam down the center front, so this time I'm going to just put it there. And I'm going to come across. Do you see where the top point is? I'm just going to come out and start it at the center right there. And then I'll copy that. Oh, not that one. This one again. And put it on the center front, or the side front, and line it up right there. There. So now I've got all of my lines. They're balanced and they're even, and I didn't have to do as much measuring. But there's a downside to this too, because the lines may or may not be actually touching the piece. And I can either zoom in and see, or I can just hope for the best and swap them. And this one might just extend that line out. It might not too, so I'm just going to create a line, 2 point, touch the corner, right click and say vertical. OK. And I'm going to save them as, and then swap the lines. So, save as, Princess back B. Okay. So now I'm looking for places that need to be cleaned up. I can pull that line out further, but I think it will let me swap it anyway, and the same with that one. But to change it, modify, adjust, you're just going to touch the line, choose the end you want to move, and pull it out. Select the line to change the length, and then choose the end to change the length and pull. Alright, so I'm going to swap now. Modify. Should I zoom in first? That one's crossing over. I don't like where that one's crossing over, so I'm going to zoom in and just move it a little bit. Modify line. When you move a line, it retains its same characteristics and the same angle, but I can leave it so it's just barely crossing over. And then I'll do that with the next one. Touch, right click, line it up with that point. And I would rather see that it crosses over a tiny bit than to have to come back and fix it later. So that's a little bit bigger than the original dart. And if you want extra flare, that's good. If you want it to be more tailored, then you would want to do the one that we did before. I mean, you could create a line that came straight out here and have that balanced across the side and then change it on the side seam to where the front is, but sometimes it's handy just to be consistent. That one looks good. That one's a little extra, so I think I'm going to just bring it up to here. Modify line move. Was that a bad thing? No, I think that's okay, but the rest of them are a little lower. I just need to make sure I put my side seam one on the other side in the same place. So you want to have, this one is going to match up with the back because it's on the center back, but I need to put a little curved line to blend it here. These two need to be connected at the same level, and they are. And since I started at the waistline on the back on this one, I should do the same thing here. But I think I did that. That was my first one. So that one's already connected. And that one, I'll just move out a little bit. Okay. So they're all okay except for my center front and back. And this is the way that they go together. Center, side, side, center. So I can swap them all now except for my center front and back. I want a smooth curve and not a sharp point right here because it looks nicer. But that's personal taste. You're the designer. Create 2-point curve. Not a big change, just a little blend. And you would be surprised at what a difference that makes. When I made costumes, I could see little things like that from the back row. Okay. So I can trace them off or I can swap them. If I'm going to swap them, a couple of the lines I need to split. Modify line, split. This one needs to be split. That one already is split. This one, I'm going to go ahead and split there. Okay. All right. It'll either be a train wreck or it'll be good. Modify line, swap. This line and this line for this line. Ah! Well, it worked. Modify line swap, clockwise and in order, and not to forget my little line. It's the clockwise and in order part that gets you. Uh-oh. That one won't work because I didn't split this side seam. Split right there. Modify line swap, clockwise, get my little curve clockwise. Beautiful. It wasn't a train wreck. So I'm going to save them just in case. All of my bees. And then I just need to clean it up, delete the extra lines, and fix the hem. And we'll do a better job on this one. Delete line. And I can get them all at once if I see them all. And I can't delete a solid line. Okay, that looks good. So I've got my end points and I've got something extra right there. We're going to start by merging lines and see if that helps. Sorry, I hope I don't make you nauseous. My back pieces and my front pieces. Now I can make them bigger. And do you see how where I move my mouse, it's easier to zoom in and out? I know that frustrates some of you. All right, delete notches. I don't need these two hem notches. I can just do all of them at once. And modify line combine. This is part of truing. You want every line to end at the corner, but not all over the place, because I think by now you've seen what a mess you can make of the seam allowance if you forget to go through and merge your lines. Combine your lines, rather. Now, we've got a diamond here that we want to get rid of. We only want upward triangles. If you were going to be grading it and you had a diamond shape, which is a upward triangle and a downward triangle at the same time, that would be okay, but we're not grading this. So any downward triangles, which includes those diamonds, we need to fix that. It's not as critical if you're not going to plot the piece. So if this isn't something you're going to plot, you don't have to fix them. But when you get to the point you're going to plot these things, and I'm not going to be surprised if there's a extra little itty bitty line right there. But if you're going to plot them, you're going to have to get rid of those grade things. So I'm going to show you how you don't have to do this if you're not using this to plot. So edit point. This piece is fine. This piece also fine. This one has a diamond, so we need to highlight the grade rule and push the delete button on the keyboard and say apply. And same there. Oh dear. I didn't apply, did I? Delete, apply. Delete, apply. Now right here we've got little intermediate points almost on top of each other. And that could become a manufacturing problem if they're too close. The knife will think it's a notch, because to the cutter, 2 points side by side is a notch. So, but right now, oh, I need to switch pieces. Edit point. highlight the grade rule, delete, not the point ID up here. Look up at the mouse. Right here where it says point ID, we don't want to delete that. Right here across from grade rule, that's the line we're deleting. Apply, choose the next one, highlight the grade rule, delete, apply. Delete and apply. I think I got them all. Okay, so if you're, oh no, I missed one. Okay, so our backs and our fronts, and because of the way I've done that, I would have to add seam allowance all the way around all the pieces. There are no pieces on the fold. That's a design choice, but I said that already, didn't I? Okay, modify, set rotate, end corner, oops, it's a good thing I'm not a surgeon. Oh, again. Cancel. Always start with the one that's holding still and then move out to the one that you're moving to the one that's holding still. And always start with the point that you can find a counterpart on the other side. Okay. Create 2-point curve. I'm going to go from the, I'm going to go from the center right there. No, I'm not. All right, if I really wanted to do this correctly, I would come up to create line and come down to perpendicular on line, go all the way down to the bottom, and pull it out. Uh-oh. So on that one that I made a mess of, I was actually connected to this line, and you want it perpendicular to this line. So those are just guidelines that help me see where my right angles are, and the right angles are going to be what helps the skirt have a nice end point. If you're going to make a couture outfit, you'll probably have the person stand still and you can fix the hem on them after you've made your first one, but I'm going to clean it up as best I can. So I'm going to join this line about an inch or so from the edge, and then I'm going to join this one in about the same place and just bring it down. And if I come down and touch right there in the middle, I'm going to have a nice right angle there too. So this time I'm going to go with this one, and I was holding down after the piece highlighted. So I'm going to touch down and connect right here, and then I'm just going to set it down right where that point crosses over. So I can copy those two lines to the piece they're not attached to. So this one, the center back and the side front both have my curved line on that I want to keep. So create line copy. I want to copy this line onto that piece. What did I do wrong? Create line copy. This line. No, not that line. Or that line. That line. Say OK. Put it on this piece. Say OK. There it is. Cancel. This line goes on this piece. Say OK. There it is. Cancel. Oh, I probably didn't do anything wrong the last time. I just didn't come over there and find the line. Okay. So I can move them apart now. And I'm going to clip them because it's going to be easier for me. Modify line. Clip. I want this line until it touches this one. And I'm going to leave the other lines out there. Uh-oh. Well, what's she going to do about that? I'm going to hope for the best. I want this line until it touches this line. And it does. So I can either hope when I swap this one it connects to that point, or I can try creating, well, we'll just do it the same way we did the others, perpendicular on line. There we go. Modify line. Modify. Clip. This line till it touches that one. Awesome. I think I got lucky. So modify line swap. I want this line and this line to swap with this one. Wahoo! Look at how nice that looks. Delete line. You can go through and do them all at once, but I like to make sure you get to see. So this would need to combine. Modify line, combine. And then this piece would be done. And you would just need to add seam allowance to them. Modify line swap. This one and this one for this one. Modify line clip this line until it touches that one. And this one's kind of messy. This line until it touches that one. And does that line actually touch that? I left the curved one on the other one, so I'm going to go with the curved one on this one. Modify line, swap this line and this line for this line. This line and this part of that line for this line. modify delete line. After you learn all the things, I mean, you probably don't want to hear me repeating all of these same things in your ear. Oh, that's why that looks messy. That was that little line that I did at the beginning. Okay, so now some merging, modify line, combine. Okay, so now I'm going to come up to piece, realign pieces so that my pieces aren't crooked anymore. And there's my back and my front. And when that flips over, those sew on top of each other exactly in theory. Let's make sure they do. Yeah, I think that will. And then the back sews to the side. So you can quit watching if you want to, or you can watch me put seam allowance on this thing. And depending on what you want to do and how much alteration you're expecting to need to do is going to determine what seam allowance you're going to use. I would use 1 inch on the shoulders, 3/8 on the neck, 5/8 on the armhole, and anywhere between 5/8 and 1 inch on the straighter pieces. So I'm going to just start with 5/8 and come over to Advanced, Define, and I'll choose all of the pieces. All of the pieces. If you touch the center of the piece, it does them all. And say OK. 0.625. So they all have 5/8, and then I'm going to choose the neckline in the front and the neckline in the back, and 0.375. And if I'm worried about altering, I am going to change my shoulder to 1 inch. And you can do your side seams at 1 inch. We'll do the side seams at 1 inch because you might need to let it out, and maybe center back. I'll leave that up to you. I'm just changing those to 1. And now I'm going to modify a stain advanced and swap the seams and say OK. Alright, so that means we might have some problems. I'm going to say OK and see what happened. And I'm not seeing anything that really is disturbing. So for now I'm going to leave it. And did I put these to the menu? I didn't. Right click, piece to menu. You can live dangerously and not do piece to menu, but what did I do with that? Okay. And it looks like those, I'm going to do that one just in case. Okay, so I'm going to add all of those to my model. File, create edit model, add pieces. Princess Dress Theory, okay. And I don't need that one. I know I don't need that one. So I'm probably going to get some extra pieces in here. If you know which ones you need, then just touch those. Already there, cancel, already there, cancel. And now those are the pieces that are there. A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A. Center side, side. Okay. So if this is something you want to turn in, I'm going to modify, delete all the pieces, and then I'm just going to get my bees down. If you would align them so the side seams go together, so you'll need to flip those two. Modify piece flip. So line them up so you've got your center back and your side body. You can overlap them if you want to, so it's easier for me to see. And then your side seams coming together and your center front. And then zoom in and take a screenshot and turn that in, please. And if it's something you're turning in for a project, also come up here and do File, Save As, and put it on your C drive. File, Save As. So you'd have to come up to Edit first and switch the path to your C drive so that I can actually come in and see it. So choose your storage area, and you might not have the right rule table, but that's okay. Just save that. Okay. But save them all to the C drive, or do Save As. I don't think I was sitting here when I set that up, so I'm going to close this. And on my C drive, well, alright, apparently it's fine now, but it doesn't have the... Alright, I think that's going to work now. There we go. So I can make sure it's going into the C drive into Louise, and then you won't even have to change your original when you do the Save As. There. So if you did change your preferences, go back to Paths and put it back where you need to save things. Anyway, take a screenshot and send that to me so that I know you've done it. And we went over how to do screenshots in the Turning in Homework episode.